do it all at once. I mean, not both sides, but the Capitol, I mean, you look back at plans that, south of Capitol, it's disastrous. I mean, it's the longest road that hasn't been
It's
maintained.
It's really rough, and like I said, because it's a concrete
We didn't
pavement,
even like put an overlay for 20-something years.
our options are pretty much panel replacement, but that's really all that we can do.
We were able to do was Lake Drive concrete?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
Good, and that's right. Very patiently waiting to say something.
I would say I support, this all makes a lot of sense, and I think once you, to your point, once you start kind of like moving it around, I'm just gonna ask my same question in a little different way. Does the amount of basement backups on the whole stretch of, on East Stratford, are basement backups the same between these two blocks, or is there a different?
I'm gonna give you the same answer I gave you before.
You don't know?
That's
Okay.
not a question I can answer tonight.
Okay, I guess I would say
I
that
know.
that's the one piece of this plan that just feels a little off, because I know that Stratford is just, they really
Well,
suffer.
I will say that they may be different types of so there
Yeah.
are two different types of sewer work that we're doing, where in some cases, we're adding relief sewers,
Mhm.
which means the existing sewer stays, we're adding a secondary sewer that acts as,
Sure.
catch-all for overflow.
Mhm.
In other cases, we're actually taking out the existing sewer and increasing the size of the pipe.
Mhm.
So, quick question, just kind of boiling it down, does that mean that doing half of Stratford will effectively provide relief to the whole? I mean,
As I said, anything that you do adds
it's wonderful.
some
Sure.
relief to the,
To everyone.
to the area as a whole. It won't be the same amount of relief, to different blocks, that will vary.
Could we, in 2022, there's that whole Newton section that's not sewer. Could we front load the sewer and, yeah, maybe do like, fit that water in somewhere else? And just-
Yeah, I agree, because Prospect was where the river was it flowed down Prospect and across Stratford to the west. So I'm concerned about particularly this north relief sewer, if that's a bigger one.
So these are phased in order of both function
Mhm.
and critical importance, so to speak. And we always try to do everything worst
Right.
first.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'm not real comfortable sitting here and saying, well, we're gonna move this piece of sewer into
Right.
this
Right.
project. There's specific reasons that the
Okay.
engineer designed
Okay.
it this way.
sure.
So I can certainly have that conversation and say, is there a way that we can take 5 years of projects and push them into 4 or push them into 3, and how can we do that? But I would advise against us doing that tonight.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing that I would just ask you to consider is that, these projects, in essence, are sized for our capabilities in a given
Right.
year, both from budget and from staffing perspectives.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question
Right,
for that comment?
go ahead.
We are spending significantly less on road projects in the total columns. So I get what we have financially, but also staff, we did more in prior years, meaning in funding levels.
That's because the utilities are carrying much of the load of these projects.
Yep.
The
I see that.
actual, impact of the project, the size of the project
Okay.
is,
And I
and the
only asked that-
complexity is,
I asked that
More.
last year because it seemed like the local road program, I think last year was like prior years was like 2.5 million, and then all of a sudden it dropped, and,
we were specifically given that instruction to design those to a lesser construction value.
okay, that's why.
Well, 18 was, Wilson.
Right, so that's a little bit of an outlier.
So, okay, here's my question, radical question. Why, I understand we have always traditionally done even years reconstruction, odd years mill and overlay. Is there a reason we cannot do like a 2023, like do construction projects every year instead of every other year? I mean, there's a
Um,
summer every
Yes,
year.
from a staffing perspective, we can't maintain that.
Okay,
What
what
do
if
you
you're
mean by
not
that?
doing mill and overlay and,
You were just doing road construction.
yeah,
I mean that, the size and the complexity of the projects that we're talking about require staffing level higher than what we currently have. There's Joel and I to run a department that takes two people to run without construction projects, and then you add these construction projects and resident coordination and coordination with other utilities and other entities, and quite frankly, it's not sustainable for two people for multiple years of,
So,
can we use resources from the village engineer to help us do
yeah,
that?
that would help, but that does not solve the vast majority of the problem, no. Because it requires staff to address resident issues and handle resident concerns and do the coordination among the other utilities and other entities. A contracted construction engineer can take a load off, but they cannot do all of that.
I think our contracted engineer was like 90 grand a year. I mean, it was pretty high. Can I ask the opinion, especially maybe from our manager, bringing on a village engineer for 90 grand or less, or whatever it may be, but is that helpful to have that other staff member rather than a consultant? And I know the benefits come into play, but regardless of financial for a second, is that what we're missing? And the reason I ask that is, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I asked this last year too, that 1 year you're doing road construction, so all your time's managing road construction and you have no time to do these other things. And then the off year, from what is being said now, is when you catch up on everything else.
Our off year, we do more projects in an off year than we do in a
Right.
major year.
But I'm just saying.
So there's no off year for us.
No, I mean every alternate year.
Maybe,
No, even alternate years are not off years.
I understand that, but we were mentioning, why can't we do road construction every year?
so maybe it'd be helpful just to describe what we do
Yes.
in the midst of construction, because the year before is all the prep to go into the following year. And they probably just don't.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So in the odd calendar years, in addition to alley projects, mill and overlays, sidewalks, and other infrastructure, smaller infrastructure projects, we spend probably a good 6 to 8 months of the year doing engineering and design work for the major project.
So would it be helpful to have an engineer on staff, it would be my follow-up. I mean, we're paying a lot for a consultant not to be able to take some of this workload.
It would be helpful to have another, in some respects, it would be helpful to have another person on staff. I'm not convinced that person would need to be an engineer. Even the municipalities that have engineers on staff still have consulting engineers do their design work.
Right, but then you wouldn't have to oversee that contract. I was just saying, taking that money from a consultant engineer, utilizing it for staff who would oversee.
But then the staff will have to do the plans and do the design work, because now you've taken the money away from the
Right,
consulting
who's the
engineer.
Well,
who's gonna do
I
that?
guess the question is, if we
Was it
were
an
to,
alternate?
if
Is
we
that
were
an
to
option?
fund another position, like someone under Joel, if we were to fund more capacity, now, I mean, I don't know that we are gonna wanna do that indefinitely, because I guess the question is, could we accelerate some of these projects if we funded additional staff capacity at DPW?
If it's a staff.
It's possible.
Okay, I
Um,
just wanted to throw that
yeah.
out there, because
I just hesitate because this is a significant amount of infrastructure work for a community and a staff of the size that we have. It's a little disproportionate.
okay.
But I think one of the things that's,
What's our options? I
helpful
guess?
that you're putting out there is when we spent, and Leanne and Joel, and then Mark and I later after that, put a lot of time into thinking about staging and what we can realistically do. Because it has been going at a really fast pace for a number of years, like the last decade. I mean, you know, I reflect a lot back on the fact that we still have the same amount of people in public works that we did 30 years ago. And that's great, but 30 years ago, they rarely ever did projects, right? Everyone deferred everything from an infrastructure perspective, and it's been the last 15 years that all the major work is done, which is great, it's commendable. But at the same time, it's really taking the where, and the department also needs time to manage and work with the people and the changeovers that we have from a staffing perspective. So I think it's really helpful that you brought up that lens of like, if you do have another position, what does that mean?
Yeah, and specifically an engineer, because I've always wondered that about the village, because that is a key position over at different municipalities I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
My other question was, is there anything we can offload from the off years, like sidewalk replacement, to a contractor or to something that would free up time of our management in DPW? I'm just looking for options of, if you wanted to do more, what would we need? What could we do?
I mean, I just want, you know, the flood was in 2010,
Yeah.
you know, and we're talking about not really getting to the sewer for 20 years, you know, which is a,
So just what are our
But
options?
just so, like, I don't think it was, your community was the most aggressive of any community after the floods happened. And for this, just so, like, we're all on the same page, this portion you couldn't do anymore within the scope of your community until MMSD did this sewer. Cause I don't think you were gonna fund the 20 million.
Yeah, we wouldn't, I mean,
Who would have,
it was
If you could get it
originally
from-
in, it was originally in the
Pardon?
If you
estimate.
could get it for another.
right, if you could get a I mean, this was just a challenging, I just don't want you guys to leave with the perspective that you've been remiss, because if you go out anywhere, everyone's like, oh, Shorewood blew people out of the water. Haha, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, reason, I'm not funny.
I think Whitefish Bay has already addressed a lot of their issues.
But, so, the reason, you know, Edgewood needs to get done before you can do some of the other components of it. That's just
Well,
the,
we didn't know that, but yes.
Yeah.
I read that.
I'm just wondering the insertion of Oakland into this schedule.
so the
I
last
don't-
time we
you know, maybe we
talked,
just
there
went with
was, the
Oakland.
feedback from the group was, we need to push Oakland up. So we, Leanne was at that meeting, and so one of the takeaways we have from our note is, okay, they really wanna do Oakland. There's also, from Public Works, they're saying, yep, this is necessary to do. So a lot of this is driven by accommodating for the sewers to be done, but also addressing Oakland at the same time and
And I
making
don't-
sure that it's balanced.
I think it was a mistake, I think it was an oversight, that's what we were told last year and the year before, that it wasn't in the long range financial, it didn't just show up, it
Yeah,
was a mistake or an oversight that it wasn't in there all along.
Well, I wouldn't say it was a mistake or an oversight
There was nothing in
necessarily. There was no, direction or, the board never expressed Oakland as being a priority
Yeah.
until last year.
But
yeah.
there was nothing in there from staff perspective, there was always Oakland Avenue, there just wasn't, it was blank for all the
Well,
way
I
through
mean,
there.
if we don't have a way to, move things, if this is the pace that we're gonna do things at, then I think that we all have to recognize that the cost of doing Oakland sooner means, and like, if there's another flood, you know, we're gonna be in deep water, let's just say. I don't know, what is the will of the board? I haven't heard from.
I mean, I know that conversation that we talked about Oakland and talked about, doing it. I just have some hesitation about putting that, you know, before all of these homeowners' needs. And I don't know if there's, you know, is there some, I mean, we put Oakland in, like, is it possible to rearrange and push Oakland back?
You can, but as I mentioned, our only option at this point is to do panel replacement.
Right.
There's nothing else. So once we start into that, you're sort of down that road and then,
Are you talking
And
about
it sounds like
taking
it's
the whole project?
deteriorating at a
Yeah,
It definitely is, and I mean, for me, it's more just like the conversation. I am not the expert at this, and I'm just trying to understand. But as a resident, my thoughts and concerns, especially with climate change, is what if this happens again and you live on Summit and you're not gonna have anything done until 2032. I mean, that's a long time from now.
I absolutely understand. My point there, I'm sorry, is just to say, we can certainly rearrange and move Oakland to the back of that schedule, But I just
Okay.
ask that there's a recognition that doesn't mean we can't, that we shouldn't or won't do anything to Oakland Avenue. We will still be asking you for a significant sum of money to do spot repairs on Oakland Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say Oakland, that, after we had a conversation about 4 months ago, I'm dropping papers all over the place. I drove down Oakland and it's in pretty rough shape. I mean, it's, it clearly needs some repair. That said, I do agree with what Jessica said. But I'm looking kind of to you to tell us, will some of these projects really begin to mitigate some, even if it's not fully done, as we gradually replace, will it mitigate risk to the whole southeast part of Shorewood, or is it something where?
Yeah, I believe I said that twice.
Yeah,
Yep.
you keep
Yeah.
saying
I just wanna be
that.
clear that it's just,
Yeah,
it's
so
water flows
anything
down.
you do provides benefit.
Yeah.
The more you do, the more benefit everyone receives.
So, I just think, I'm okay,
Go ahead.
I'm just thinking that wherever it falls, whatever year, staff obviously would advise us. I wouldn't wanna see it, I guess, and the boards will, but I wouldn't wanna see it in pieces, like you just said, panel by panel. Either we do it, or we do it, here or there. I just feel like the disruption to commuter traffic into our community and out of our community will be significant over a 5-year period, and that matters a lot to the residents as well, because a lot of people work, and it just would be, we would hear it a lot. So if it's possible to wait and put it in a different year all at once, I'm good with that. It's possible to hire an engineer so we can do 2 things at one time, I'm good with that. If it's possible, so I just am trying to look for not segregating the project over a lot of time, piece by piece.
Go ahead.
And I'd like to also just remind all of us here, and thank you for the hard work, because I know that we keep changing the landscape on you, and you're coming back with new things. And